And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Rachel Zegler's journey with Disney's live-action Snow White remake began with a spark that quickly turned into a wildfire. Cast as the iconic princess after her breakout role in West Side Story, Zegler brought high expectations to the project. However, long before the film hit theaters, she ignited a firestorm with her outspoken criticism of the original 1937 animated classic. In various interviews, she labeled the prince a stalker and dismissed the traditional story as outdated, advocating for a modern feminist reimagining. These comments didn't just raise eyebrows, they unleashed a torrent of backlash. Fans of the original Snow White felt betrayed, accusing Zegler of disrespecting a cherished piece of Disney history. Many questioned her decision to take on a role she appeared to hold in such low regard, wondering aloud why she'd sign up for a project she seemed eager to dismantle. Her remarks set the stage for a divisive narrative that would only grow louder as the production moved forward. For Disney, a brand built on nostalgia and family-friendly appeal, Zegler's unfiltered opinions marked the beginning of a PR nightmare, alienating a portion of its core audience before a single frame of the remake was even shot. This initial controversy laid the groundwork for the chaos that would follow, proving that in the world of blockbuster remakes, words can be as explosive as any box office bomb. As if the initial backlash wasn't enough, Rachel Zegler doubled down by taking her opinions to social media, where things went from bad to nuclear. In the lead-up to Snow White's release, she posted a series of unfiltered takes, most notably pro-Palestine statements that stirred up a hornet's nest online. These weren't subtle comments either. She dropped blunt lines like "Free Palestine" and "Fuck Donald Trump," lighting up X with reactions ranging from applause to outrage. The timing couldn't have been worse. Disney was already scrambling to keep the film's promotion on track, and now their lead actress was at the center of a geopolitical firestorm. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Her post reportedly fueled a wave of death threats aimed at her co-star Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen and hails from Israel, with a past in the Israel Defense Forces. The situation escalated so fast that Disney had to beef up Gadot's security, turning a fairy tale remake into a real-world drama. Zegler's supporters argued she was just exercising free speech, but critics, including some close to the production, saw it as a reckless move that dragged the film into a polarizing mess. Jonah Platt, son of producer Mark Platt, later called her out directly, blaming her narcissism and immaturity for tanking the movie's chances. Disney even hired a social media guru to vet her posts, but by then, the damage was done. Zegler's online rampage didn't just divide fans, it put a massive target on the film's back, making it a lightning rod for controversy when it needed to be a crowd pleaser. When Disney's live-action Snow White finally hit theaters, the numbers told a story uglier than any wicked stepmother could dream up. The film pulled in a measly $87 million worldwide against a staggering $270 million budget. A financial gut punch that branded it an undeniable flop. Critics piled on, handing it the lowest reviews of any major Disney remake to date, with words like disjointed and soulless thrown around like poisoned apples. What was supposed to be a triumphant reimagining of a classic became a cautionary tale of how to torch a franchise. The blame game kicked into high gear, and Rachel Zegler's name was front and center. Jonah Platt's scathing Instagram comment, later deleted, pointed the finger squarely at her, claiming her politicized outbursts and earlier digs at the original story clearly hurt the film's appeal. Some argued the movie was doomed from the start, with costly reshoots and a muddled vision behind the scenes. But Zegler's role as the face of the project made her the lightning rod. Her supporters pushed back, insisting she was scapegoated for a sinking ship, pointing to the relentless online harassment she faced as proof she'd been unfairly targeted. Disney had banked on nostalgia and Zegler's star power to carry the day, but instead, they got a perfect storm of bad PR and worse ticket sales. The Snow White remake didn't just underperform, it crashed and burned, leaving behind a wreckage of dashed hopes and a big question. Could Zegler's unchecked voice really have been the fatal blow? Or was this a disaster too big for one person to shoulder? Either way, the box office bloodbath sealed the saga's fate as a Hollywood horror story. The dust has barely settled from Snow White's catastrophic collapse, but the fallout for Rachel Zegler and Disney is already reshaping the narrative. Zegler, once hailed as a rising star after West Side Story, now finds her reputation on shaky ground. Industry insiders whisper that her outspokenness has made studios wary. Will she be seen as a bold talent or a liability too hot to handle? She's not staying quiet, though. Recent X-posts show her leaning into the chaos, defending her stance and firing back at critics. But the question lingers. Can she rebound from a flop this loud? Disney's licking its wounds, too. The Snow White debacle has sparked internal debates about how to handle talent in the social media age, especially when their voices clash with the brand's squeaky clean image. Some say the studio's already tightening the reins, with rumors of stricter contracts and PR oversight for future projects. The financial hit stings, but the bigger loss might be trust. Fans are now side-eyeing Disney's live-action remake machine, wondering if the magic's gone for good. As for Snow White, it's a dead horse unlikely to rise again anytime soon. Zegler's saga, though, feels far from over. Hollywood loves a redemption arc, and she's young enough to pivot if she can dodge the cancel culture crosshairs. For now, this chapter closes with a grim lesson. In the clash between celebrity activism and corporate fairy tales, no one's coming out unscathed. What's next for Zegler? A quieter role, a louder fight, or a career rewrite? Only time will tell. But this mess has left a mark that won't fade fast. The Rachel Zegler Snow White saga isn't just a Hollywood hiccup. It's a glaring spotlight on the tightrope walk between personal expression and blockbuster expectations. Zegler's downfall, if you can call it that, exposes a raw truth. In today's world, a star's voice can be a weapon or a wrecking ball, especially under Disney's family-friendly umbrella. Her choice to go full throttle with divisive takes, whether slamming the original Snow White or diving into geopolitics, shows how fast a PR misstep can spiral into a multi-million-dollar disaster. This mess also cracks open a bigger can of worms for Disney and the industry at large. Live-action remakes were once a cash cow, but Snow White's flop suggests the formula's wearing thin. Fans aren't just craving nostalgia, they want respect for the classics, not a lecture on why they're problematic. Zegler's comments might have been the loudest grenade, but the film's failure hints at deeper cracks. Creative misfires, bloated budgets, and a disconnect with audiences who've grown skeptical of Disney's reboot obsession. Then there's the social media factor. Zegler's X-post turned a fairy tale into a culture war battleground, proving that stars don't get to clock out anymore. Every word's a potential headline. Studios might start locking down talent harder, but that risks stifling the authenticity fans crave. It's a paradox with no easy fix. Let stars speak in court chaos or muzzle them and lose the human spark. The takeaway? Zegler's saga is a brutal case study in what happens when ambition, activism, and corporate stakes collide. Disney's reeling, Zegler's regrouping, and the industry's watching. This isn't the end of the story. Just a loud warning shot for the next big remake daring to step into the ring. Rachel Zegler's Snow White saga didn't just tank at the box office. It split the internet into warring camps, each digging in with a vengeance. On one side, you've got Team Zegler, a vocal crew of fans who see her as a fearless trailblazer. They argue she's been unfairly vilified, a young woman targeted by a toxic online mob for daring to speak her mind. To them, her critiques of the original Snow White were fresh and bold, and her pro-Palestine stance was a principled stand, not a career killer. They point to the death threats and harassment she's faced, especially after the Gal Gadot blowback, as proof she's the real victim here, not Disney's bottom line. Then there's the other side, the haters, and they're not holding back. To them, Zegler's a walking red flag, arrogant, ungrateful, and tone deaf. They say she bit the hand that fed her, trashing a beloved classic while cashing Disney's check, then doubling down with posts that drag the film into a political dumpster fire. For this crowd, her narcissism and immaturity, as Jonah Platt put it, aren't just opinions. They're Exhibit A in why Snow White bombed. They wanted a princess, not a soapbox, and they're gleeful to see her stumble. The clash plays out daily on X, where hashtags swing from hashtag Stand With Rachel to hashtag Zegler ruined Snow White. It's more than a fandom spat. It's a microcosm of the culture wars, with Zegler as the lightning rod. Her defenders see a scapegoat, her detractors see a cautionary tale. Caught in the middle? Disney, quietly counting the losses while the internet picks sides. This fan divide isn't cooling off anytime soon. It's the kind of feud that keeps the saga alive, long after the credits roll. As the Snow White saga draws its last breath, Rachel Zegler stands at a crossroads. Her once bright star dimmed by a storm she helped ignite. The film's failure, $87 million against a $270 million budget, marks a brutal end to what could have been her big break. Critics savaged it, fans bickered, and Disney's counting the cost of a gamble gone wrong. Zegler's role in this mess isn't up for debate. She was the face, the voice, and to many, the spark that lit the fuse. But whether she's the villain or the fall guy depends on who's telling the story. Her legacy's the real question now. For some, she's a cautionary tale. A young actress who flew too close to the sun with her anti-Disney rant and torched her own career. Studios might think twice before handing her the keys to another blockbuster, spooked by the chaos she trailed. Yet for others, this is just a chapter, one she can rewrite. She's 23, scrappy, and still has a fan base rooting for her comeback. Hollywood's seen worse flops forgiven. If she plays her cards right, a quieter gig, a killer role, she could rise from the ashes. Disney's not off the hook either. This flop's a black eye on their remake spree, a signal that nostalgia alone won't cut it anymore. They'll rethink how they handle stars like Zegler, balancing free speech with the brand's fairy tale sheen. The Zegler saga ends here, but its echoes won't fade fast. It's a tale of ambition, missteps, and a princess who didn't quite get her happily ever after, leaving us all wondering what's next in this fractured fairy tale. For now, the curtain's down, the screen's dark, and the spotlight's off. That's a wrap.